Hey, there we are, Tuesday, May 13th. WrestleMats, Matt Kelly, Maddie Riser, coming at you live tonight from all the places, YouTube, Facebook, and now Twitch. Hey, Maddie, we are getting all over the place, man. Big things happening in WWE, buddy. How's your week been?
Dude, I've been cooking with Crisco across the board, man. Loving life. Stock up, stock down. A great backlash, and now we're on to the next one, baby.
Yeah, Speaking of on to the next one, I was taken aback a little bit once they announced, after Backlash, we had Raw, and then apparently now we have, was it Night of Champions coming up in Jeddah? Money in the Bank's not that far away. Saturday Night Main Event's not that far away. So it's just like, what the hell, man? WWE lock, stocked, and loaded coming up here with all kinds of special shows. And did you notice, actually, last night, Maddie, on Raw, that they the match that Gunther, I guess it's going to be they're going to run it back with Gunther and Jey Uso most likely, unless Jey Uso by some weird fluky chance loses to Logan Paul. That title match is going to be on Raw and not on Money in the Bank. Isn't that like a little odd?
See, I thought he said it was on like Night of Champions or something. Yeah, I didn't catch that part. That's
I thought
really
it was
weird.
on. Well, it could be wrong. Maybe it is Night of Champions. That would make way more sense. But
do we need
they said Raw.
Run it back?
Yeah, I'll run it back. Yeah. No, I need the whole main event, Jey Uso. I need to hear it again so that I know which date it is. But yeah, nonetheless, man, it looks like that main event is coming down the pipeline here really, really soon. So I'll be interested to see what they have for the second installment, or not the second. It's, I guess, technically like the fifth installment of Jey and Gunther. But nonetheless, we are tonight, Maddie. We are talking WWE, stock up, stock down, a little bit of stock watch, which superstars are peaking, which superstars are sputtering out a little bit. But before that, I hate having to do this part of the show, Maddie, but unfortunately, that is as part of life. We lost an awesome superstar over the May 11th, so just a couple of days ago, over the weekend. Sabu, man, talk about ECW, one of the ECW originals that anytime I hear ECW, he's one of the first guys that I think of. You see all the scars there. If you're watching along with us at home, again, YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, at WrestleMats or at WrestleMatsPod over on Twitch. But just all the scarring across his body. He's known for going through tables, having barbed wire, all these really extreme matches. And man, what a fucking incredible run for this guy. And literally up until just like 3 weeks ago, still wrestling.
Yeah, it was in GCW 2 weeks ago wrestling. Dude, this guy was an innovator. When you think of ECW, think of hardcore. And this guy was that, from the early matches of no ropes, barbed wire death matches in Japan, to ECW, where he was the ECW champ, tag champs with RVD. When you think of the Mount Rushmore of ECW wrestlers, he's got to be on there.
Yeah, I think so. I was watching just some highlights and chronicling of his career over the last couple of days, and it's pretty wild that he is. You don't have a lot of wrestlers that jump promotions the way that Sabu did, and is still like revered. You know what I mean? For like his time in each and every single promotion. Like typically somebody that jumps around promotion to promotion, you don't think of them as being like this big name or this legendary sort of figure. But even just like a year or two ago, right, he showed up in AEW to be in Adam Cole's corner for a match. I think it was against Jericho, and he got one hell of an ovation over in AEW. I don't know how long or how much he did in AEW, but like, dude, like you were saying, TNA, New Japan, he had a stint in WCW, he had a stint in WWE, and then obviously his legendary stuff in ECW.
Yeah, just a lasting impact on the business. And you even saw like in those early days of WWF where you kind of had them blurring the lines with ECW and Paul Heyman showing up on Raw. So there's a lot of history with this guy. It's sad to see that he only made it to about 60, 61, but I think his legacy will live on, no doubt.
Yeah, absolutely. And luckily WWE, one of the things that they're great about is hanging on history and chronicling so that fans can go back and relive all of these moments. So like you said, Sabu is going to be around for a very, very long time in his legacy. So All right, Maddie. There's not like a fantastic way to, unfortunately transition out of this, but we are gonna hop into the main event portion of our show, Maddie. And we're gonna be talking superstars on the rise, superstars that are having some tough moments here, getting some traction. You want to start with the good or you want to start with the bad, Maddie?
Let's highlight the good because as a whole, WWE is firing on all cylinders, whether it's weekly TV programming or just Backlash, which we just saw. There's a lot of good coming into WWE. So I think we should highlight some superstars that are really firing on all cylinders as we speak.
All right, perfect. We're gonna do two apiece in each category here. So if you're following along, you'll definitely have graphics. Feel free to comment, chime in, let us know what you think. And Maddie, I'll kick it over to you first, man. Who is your first? Who is your first riser?
Yeah, I think we were kind of talking about playing it back at the beginning of the episode. I think we got to kind of highlight main event Jey Uso. This guy's we were kind of worried about what we were going to get from the lead up to WrestleMania with Gunther. Finally gets the title, wins in strong fashion. But this guy's kind of been in a little bit of everything as your WWE champion so far. Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, Logan Paul. We've even seen, him putting the title up against Seth Rollins right off the bat. And now Gunther to the picture. I just think this is kind of what you want with your WWE champ. You want him to be relevant. You want everybody coming for the title. That's going to tell a story, whether it's Jey long-term dropping the title or whatnot. I just think there's a lot to unpack with Jey Uso.
Yeah, he's getting thrown into the deep end. And I remember there was a promo between Roman Reigns and Cody. I think it was the one leading up to, I want to say 39, maybe the first go around, where Roman was just talking about, the weight of the championship. It doesn't just stop once you win, and it's not just a defense here and there. It's all of the appearances. It's all, everything that goes along with carrying the title. And to your point, he's got essentially 3 different programs going right now. He's got the one with Logan Paul, which is coming up on Saturday Night Main Event. He's got the one with Gunther, which if he wins Saturday Night Main Event, right, which it, based on last night, probably seems the likely outcome there. And then he's got whatever is going on with Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and the mix up there with CM Punk and Sami Zayn. So he's just all over the place. And Maddie, I thought at some point, when he was doing the entrance twice, where he starts the music back up and gives the fans a little bit more of the intro, I thought that would die off. Dude, it's still going. People want that every single time. Like, they expect that to be part of the show now.
Well, yeah, it's an experience. You saw it in Louisville, Kentucky. You've seen the merchandise sales. It's crazy right now what he's able to do. And this is just like really the beginning of his main event run. We really, up to pretty much WrestleMania was all Gunther. And we had seen there's so much meat on the bone there because they have such a long, that's going to be one of those WWE rivals in 10 years, Jey Uso and Gunther. But I just think there's so many stories to tell, whether it's all the heels lining up. Eventually there's going to be some faces that want to put up the title. And we never saw Gunther really defend the title on TV. We got Jey Uso, within a matter of weeks versus Seth Rollins. What a great match that was.
Yeah, and I like that they are keeping Gunther relevant and in kind of that tier, because I was a little bit worried that when they went the route with McAfee there, which, hey, flowers to that match and McAfee. I thought they told a pretty good story there for what it was and what they had to work with. But I was a little bit worried that we were going to go from McAfee to Goldberg, and it was just going to kind of, put Gunther on this side quest, if you will. But they're keeping him in that tier. They're keeping him relevant there with Jey, and I think that they can. You heard all the reactions to Gunther coming out and everything that was in that promo. I think this feud's still hot, and I think this feud still has places to go.
Well, I think that's key. We've seen with other wrestlers we'll talk about later, just having the right feud. It can go years if you switch it up, you bring the drama, the storylines, and that's what Triple H really, in my opinion, really does a great job of is storytelling. I think he does a lot more of the continued storyline. Even if you push pause, it picks up later, and I think that's kind of what we're getting with Jey Uso. Is you're planting a ton of seeds here for a pretty crazy WWE Championship run.
Yeah, agreed. Do you want to hit your second one, or you want me to include?
I'll let you give this guy a little shine if you want.
All right. Well, not that he is an up and comer by any stretch of the imagination, but it's crazy. He just main evented WrestleMania for the first time in his career, but I think his stock is still somehow going up right now. And I'm talking, of course, about CM Punk. And you saw it last night on WWE Raw, Matty. The promo that he goes out there and cuts basically on Paul Heyman, gets involved with Seth Rollins and with Braun Breaker, and now we have this match set up for Saturday night main event. But the chance, anytime that Seth Rollins is out there and on TV, or Paul Heyman is out there, the CM Punk chants, I mean, they're as loud as they have ever been. And that feud at WrestleMania, I think it's almost the best possible outcome with him losing, because now you have this whole kind of redemption arc, right, of CM Punk and getting back to maybe it's night 2 and that WrestleMania main event, and maybe it's finally getting his piece of Seth Rollins, and that story as well is another one that they've been telling that story for a hot minute, but it's still incredibly hot right now. And I think that's in large part due to, Punk's ability on the mic, Seth's ability on the mic. But when you look at kind of the gamut of opponents that CM Punk still has to his disposal, in John Cena, like, man, imagine if he gets John Cena on this retirement tour. It's just gonna be mega, a mega 2025 for CM Punk.
Oh, and that's the thing, like him with Seth Rollins right now is gas on the fire. Like, they just work so well together. They're polar opposites in everything they do. And I feel like Seth Rollins can hold his own in a promo with Punk. So it just adds everything to it. But like you said, we're just scratching the surface with CM Punk's second run here, because this is really just getting started, in my opinion. One of the greatest wrestlers ever. And this is like, it's almost like a rejuvenation when he came back. I know it's been 2 years, but he got hurt.
Yeah.
But it didn't even matter if he was wrestling. He was, carrying the company just by being on TV. And that's what he's done a great job of, is showing up.
Yeah, it's funny you say that in the storyline with Seth Rollins about how kind of opposite they are, just in terms of, we saw Seth Rollins come draped out in the brown kind of, I don't know if it was stink skin or croc skin or whatever it was, looking very Chris Tucker out of Rush Hour 2 there. But, and then you look back at Punk, t-shirt, jeans, shoes, you know what I mean? You got this, the short slick back hair with Punk. You got the long flowing locks, there. Punk's kind of he's not on his own presently, but he's more of a lone wolf sort of deal. Seth's got a posse now, you know what I mean? Right. So there's just all of this different dynamic going on just with these two. And then obviously it'll branch off with Punk, and, you could just have so many feuds throughout 2025. And I think he's got a decent chance to be right back in the main event of WrestleMania in 2026.
I love that one line he said on Raw when he said, as long as I'm here, you're not going to be WWE champ, talking to Seth Rollins. So that was another one of those lines I loved, because I could just see this playing out in the future where Punk costs Rollins the title over and over again. And
we've seen him do it with Drew, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just icing on the cake, man. Like, he's so good as a performer.
All right. Who's your next one?
Yeah, this one's it's funny how, how the WWE universe is and how things work out for some WWE wrestlers and not others. Mine's Alexa Bliss here. We saw the pop at the Rumble. We really thought she was going to be on that trajectory to the top, and it was kind of plateaued, whether it was the Wyatt Six or her own creative, I don't know, but it seems like what we saw on SmackDown last week, it's getting back on track, whether it was winning the tag match or running into Charlotte Flair backstage. I just think those are things got me pumped as a WWE fan, and I think that's kind of what the women's division needs, whether it's facing mid-cards, rejuvenating old rivalries with Charlotte Flair. I think it's going to be a shot in the arm for the women's division.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Charlotte Flair and that, because I was a little bit worried. I'll be completely honest here. I was a little bit worried when Alexa first came out on SmackDown, and it was to be Zelina's tag team partner. And obviously, it's great to be out there. Like, Zelina's U.S. champion right now. It's great to be out there with Chelsea. You're always going to get a great performance out of her. But I was a little bit worried that she was going to get stuck in like this weird sort of supportive role. And it was weird for for whatever reason. They had Zelina Vega pointing at the, at the Tron for like what it felt like an eternity before Alexa Bliss walked out. But she still got that pop. She got a real hot tag once she got into that match. But the real I think interesting part of the night is when she went out there. I wouldn't say she confronted Charlotte, but she said, "Hey, let's chat." And it's like, oh, whoa, you were just out there with face Zelina Vega. Now you're chatting with arguably the biggest heel of the women's division in Charlotte Flair. Like, that's like, I want to know what Alexa Bliss has up her sleeve now.
When that can be no wrong, whether she teams with Charlotte, creates some kind of faction, or if she feuds with Charlotte, we're getting, it's going to be a win-win for us wrestling fans.
Yeah, she's a much needed shot in the arm to the women's division, and I'll keep it in the women's division, and I'm going to go over to Roxanne Perez. Now, Michael Cole still keeps referring to her and Julia as NXT upstarts, and I think at this point they're probably, the draft has got to be close, right? But Look at Roxanne, man. She has been in a match against Rhea Ripley, a singles match against Rhea Ripley, a singles match against Io Sky, and then in the most recent Monday Night Raw, main evented Monday Night Raw with Julia, Rhea Ripley, and Io Sky. There's some athletes that just, they perform at a different level, they move at a different level, and I think Roxanne, even with her stature, moves differently, and I noticed that specifically when she comes off the ropes. Now, I think if she ran straight, and I don't mean this as a knock against Roxanne Perez, because there's nothing she can do about it, but I think if she literally ran straight with her head up, she would head first into the top rope. But if you'll watch her run the ropes, she ducks a little bit, and she actually ends up coming off of the second rope, and I think it gives her more momentum, and I don't know why more of the shorter athletes don't do that. I think it actually looks pretty good. But you see it in the selling, you see it in her awareness, which I think awareness is huge. Going back to the Becky Lynch and Lyra Valkyria match from Backlash, Lyra had a moment where she looked like she was going to go up to the top rope, and then was like, "Oh, let me just go cover Becky," and that was just like a weird lack of awareness spot. You know what I mean? Roxanne, her wrestling IQ seems off the charts to me, and she's in the same vein as Stephanie Vaquer and a couple of these other NXT ladies. You're just not going to be able to keep them down in NXT much longer.
Yeah, she's just so fluid, and that's the weird thing. Whether she's fluid in the ring, but she's still in NXT, which is crazy to think. Like, she was in the Elimination Chamber, she was in the Rumble. She has been firing on all cylinders. So it's only, at this point, she should be getting paid like a WWE main roster.
I hope she is.
And like you said, main eventing WWE Raw. Like, as an NXT superstar, that's a freaking huge. Like, not just wrestling Lyra in middle of Chelsea. They're bumping her into the main event. I think that means a lot for her stock moving forward.
Yeah, main event of the flagship show. I think that tells you everything that you need to know in terms of her stock and what, the locker room and management and all that sort of stuff thinks about her. And I think she's got a really long, successful, career in front of her. Let's flip the switch a little bit here, Maddie, and let's talk about some superstars that are maybe just having some struggles in finding their footing, but it seems like their stock is going down in just the opposite direction of the superstars that we have talked about so far to this point. So give me your first one, buddy.
Yeah, we were like you were saying with, Alexa Bliss and the weird supportive role. Well, this is kind of what Bayley, my choice, has been kind of capped at, which is really weird When you see how Charlotte's operating, how Becky Lynch is operating, maybe Alexa Bliss, I just feel like Bayley's kind of becoming an afterthought after such a, whether it was with Damage Control or winning the Rumble, winning the title, she's been so good for so long. And it's almost like she is a afterthought in this current WWE product. Now, granted, she might get a feud with Becky sometime in the near future. I think that's kind of where they're going. But I just think there's so much meat on the bone with her as well. Being only 35, I still think there's plenty of wrestling that you could have with someone like Bayley.
Yeah, I don't know if you caught the interview with Chris Van Vliet. She had a sit down before WrestleMania, and there was a question that phrased in a way about like kind of her WrestleMania status. And like at that point, man, she already knew. She couldn't say it that she wasn't going to be on the WrestleMania card, but she very much knew. And so she's in this weird spot where she has given so much for so long, and then to your point, she is just kind of in this weird supportive role. She's not at the forefront. She's not, main eventing SmackDown. She's not really heavy in these title opportunities or with, kind of key players on the card. And I very much agree when you talk about, all of this NXT revolution and some of the key figures in that. She's very much one of those. And it seems like anytime that they have given Bayley something that's not specifically for her, she has made so much work. And I think anybody that she steps in the ring with, she puts on a good show and makes them better. So I don't know why she's floundering right now and kind of what their path is and what they're planning on doing with her. But yeah, I mean, maybe it is the Becky thing, right? But it just seems weird that you have a talent like Bayley and then you're just kind of shrugging your shoulders like, where's she at?
And it's like, even if it is the, nice people finish last, like there's got to be something about that where it's like, you just can't let WWE walk over you like that. Like, I understand it's all entertainment. It's about the money. But if they're going to do this, I'd rather just see her in AEW with Sasha Banks, Tony Storm, Mariah May, give or take. There's just a lot more you could do out of Bayley. Or even, hey, bring her back to NXT and let her main event there. I mean,
well, right. I mean, she had that stint. And if you go back to, I think it was around the Royal Rumble, right? Because that was like leading in with her feud with Roxanne Perez, actually. And she was she was on every single show. And I'm not just talking about like, Raw and PLEs. I'm talking she was on Raw, she was on NXT, she was on PLEs, she was on SmackDown. She was doing like, it was an absolutely insane run. And now it kind of feels like a little bit like Natty, just in the sense that like, she is just in the way that she's being booked. Like you can't take her as a serious contender right now. And yeah, Triple H did say like, she's a good team player, long-term story booking there. And I hope so. But sometimes momentum carries out in wrestling in such a way that you say that, and then it's 6 months later, it's 9 months later, it's a year later before they really know what to do with somebody.
Well, and then you become a Dolph Ziggler, like you said, a Natty Neidhart, and your stocks crush so bad that there's just no coming back unless you do leave the company and reinvent yourself. Like we're not there yet, but just there is some writing on the wall if we're not careful.
Yeah, and speaking of, just in the sense of of superstars that like you can't, like once they're out there and they're in front of you and you don't take them seriously in terms of like having a chance to win, that's where my next superstar is at. And I'm talking about Austin Theory, which is crazy to think about with Austin Theory, because at one point he was this he's still young, but this super young, cocky heel that like out there winning every week despite, everybody just booing the absolute living hell out of him. U.S. champion, had a WrestleMania match with John Cena, won tag team gold with Grayson Waller, which I think that team is probably past due to just kind of be done. I think he's got to get out of that situation first and foremost, because we've talked about it too. The tag team division, if we really had time to do that, the tag team division as a whole is a little bit down, right? And unfortunately, they find themselves kind of at the bottom of that sort of situation. So super young, talented guy. I just don't know what it is that they're doing with him. at this point, other than keeping him around to kind of eat these pinfalls to, like Sheamus and, just all of he took it with Jey Uso leading up to WrestleMania, stuff like that. I mean, borderline fancy enhancement talent is what Austin Theory's been for a hot minute now.
Yeah, you just can't do that to a guy who's got the look. He's got promo skills. He can wrestle. I mean, he's got some very memorable moments, whether it was upsetting John Cena at WrestleMania, being the U.S. champ, Vince McMahon's handpicked guy, the F5 from Brock Lesnar at Elimination Chamber. There's a lot of big moments and a lot of talent with Theory. But like you said, if you're booking him like an enhancement talent, like you're just doing a disservice to either him or Grayson Waller, in my opinion. So I'm right there with you, man. I don't get it.
Yeah, Grayson Waller, it doesn't feel like has ever gotten off the ground, if that makes sense. With Waller, it just, man, I don't know. Like he's been champs, with Theory, and he had the show for a little bit, and he had a spot at the Money in the Bank that I went to actually with John Cena. But it's like this start-stop sort of thing, and I don't know if fans are going to be patient enough, for like this. Like when he turns on or if he turns on Grayson Waller, like, is that enough for fans to start caring about Theory?
I don't know if it's enough, but it would be, it's got to be in the right direction. You just can't, like you said, he can't be treated like an enhancement talent, and that's the biggest death nail to anything. I mean, even if you keep him with Waller, that's one thing, but to have him lose in 20 seconds to Jey Uso, or even losing to Sheamus at this point, like why?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that part I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. I mean, I guess they're setting up that story right with Grayson Waller and whatnot, but I think that could have just been done completely differently. All right, buddy, who's your last superstar whose stock is a little bit down right now?
Yeah, this one to me, I just kind of rolled my eyes this whole process from a guy who had such a dominant run in NXT, becoming the first choice of SmackDown, literally gets drafted to SmackDown like a year ago. Main events SmackDown with Cody Rhodes. Does it all. North American champion, NXT champion, Mello don't miss. And dude's only like 5'7", 5'8", but you saw him against Aleister Black. He looks the part. He has the skills. I didn't understand the Miz. Maybe I guess I kind of see that as like a protege, tandem, but even that's kind of worn out its welcome. There's just, dude, like what is going on with this guy? This is another guy who should be up there right with the Jacob Fatus, the Damian Priest, kind of in that mid-card mix-up for the IC and US title. And instead he's, opening the show. It's just, to me, awful.
Yeah, hopefully they can revamp him, and hopefully they can revamp a few of these folks and get some fresh starts whenever the draft comes about. Shake something up somehow, right? But you can't have a talent like Carmelo Hayes, who had the run that he had in NXT. And grant you, we have seen this happen before, where folks have a really, really successful NXT run. One of the bigger names that come to my mind is like Authors of Pain. Had a really dominant NXT run. Didn't do squat when it comes to the main roster. Like I know they won gold, but like none of their runs were memorable. They don't really have any sort of memorable feuds. But with Carmelo Hayes, you go back and watch his stuff, whether it was with Trick Williams or anyone else in NXT, and the series of matches that he had with Andrade on the main roster. Like what are we doing right now? Like what are we not seeing? And in fact, with Andrade, I think that was almost a missed opportunity. You remember the series of matches with Sheamus, with Sheamus and Cesaro, right? And then they became a tag team. They could have done something, because Andrade could have easily been in this conversation, and he just now got back, but he could have easily been in this conversation. But if you would have put Mello and Andrade together to make them a team, get some focus on them, I think that's a good way to pair two guys where you don't know what to do with right now, because that seems obvious that they don't know what to do with them, and they could have been highlighting these guys.
And I think that's the thing. You have to highlight these young talent to get them over. When you come from NXT to the WWE brand, we were talking about it earlier. Roxanne Perez, what has she done since January while she's still in NXT? They have literally put the rocket ship to her.
Yeah.
Why could this guy not get, I mean, dude, he's got the move set. I think it was like I was looking at the rankings. PWI, he was a top 14 wrestler in 2023 out of 500. That's how high everybody was on this guy in 2023. So
yeah,
to
and
me,
it's not like he suddenly got bad. You know what I mean? It's not like he suddenly fell off. It's not like his promo started to be bad. It's not like he started having bad matches or anything like that. So I don't know, man. I think he's got the entrance. I think he's got the catchphrase. I think he's got the look. He's got the move set. I don't know what more you want out of a talent that you would want to feature on WWE TV right now. Go ahead.
I was just saying, like, I even see like the swagger, like of how he carries himself, his outfits. He's got the drip. Like, he has everything you want from a professional wrestler. I just don't see like what's the disconnect from WWE creative and what we're seeing.
Which actually, kudos to him. Actually, now that you say that, for keeping that swagger and for keeping sort of that attitude, because it doesn't come across on TV that like he's disappointed in opportunities or his placement on the card. It looks like he is just plugging away. So hopefully they figure that out for him. I took a little bit of a cheat code here with this last pick here, Maddie, but I'm going with the Wyatt 6. And obviously we're talking about 5 superstars in this mix. And there's been reports out there that Bo Dallas, who is Uncle Howdy, has been off the road or has some undisclosed injury or something. But honestly, at this point, it's been so mute and so mum on on this group that I don't know what to believe, whether that's the case, whether creative ran out somehow. Are we going to get the finality of Alexa Bliss and what's going to happen with that? This one has been so start-stop with everything, and I'm not even, dear God, I'm not talking about Bray. Obviously, you cannot include that in.
But you could. I mean, the start-stop. Like, I know it's not the same level, but fuck, like,
right. But I mean, this group as its present iteration, right, with all of the different characters that we have. So I mean, because once they came back, everybody was fully invested. You know what I mean? From the first time they hit the scene, like physically, like everybody fully invested.
Oh yeah.
But then you have them on TV and they're losing as well. And then they're off TV. And then you don't get this follow through with Alexa Bliss. And so I have trouble buying in again if they start back up with it. Like, I would love for some finality to the Alexa Bliss piece of this, or for Alexa Bliss to join back up. But I give it a little bit of pause because, especially of everyone in the group, I don't want Alexa Bliss to get, kind of caught up and then stall out as well, which I think we kind of already saw.
Yeah. I just don't know if any of these are, you have characters, you have theatrics, but you don't, like you said, you don't have a Bray Wyatt to the group. And I don't think any of them have been advertised as like a main event or even like a feature superstar. So at that point, it's like Alexa Bliss was, in my opinion, your only hope. But then at that point, does this whole gimmick almost hold her back because she isn't with a Bray Wyatt?
Well,
it's just a lot.
Yeah. So Alexa Bliss, right?
Right.
So when Alexa Bliss comes out every week, she still has the doll. She still has the jacket, the Friends Forever, I think, or she might have something else on the jacket now, but it's still very reminiscent of that character that was tied to Bray Wyatt. And so the only thing that we're not getting from Bliss is like kind of the mystical sort of, vibe to her character and that sort of thing. So look, if they can put it into place and they can make it work and they can give me a year of storytelling, like, I don't need the Wyatt 6 to necessarily go on for 3, 4, 5 years or whatever. But if you can give me a year of that and maybe Alexa Bliss taking over and we let her ride that part of her character out, I'm cool with that. But if we can't get there, then leave it alone. I will take Alexa Bliss's current iteration. Like, she can carry herself.
Yeah, I mean, I think there were like with the supernatural and the kind
Mhm.
of the Firefly Funhouse and kind of having
Mhm.
that creepy, like they, when they showed up backstage on Raw, knocked everybody out, the
Mhm.
smoke filled. I think there are really cool parts of this, like, supernatural phenomenon that I think there is a place in pro wrestling for that as a special attraction.
Agreed.
But I don't know if it's not with Alexa Bliss. I don't know if any of these do the job for that because I don't want to see them in wrestling matches. To me, that just I don't think it's needed. So I don't know. It's none of these characters blow me away.
Yeah, I mean, something got lost, right, when they were having matches, like, something didn't eh, I don't know. Everybody was intrigued when, like, the messages were on, when all the vignettes were coming across, introducing themselves, the backstage segment that, the first time they actually hit Raw that you were talking about where they almost killed El Grande, I mean, Chad Gable. Um, all of that was working, but then something about when they got in the ring wasn't I agree. Like, it wasn't quite right, and so I don't know what their place is either, and, I don't know if Alexa Bliss being the leader of that adds to that. Can she control and manipulate when they're having matches? I don't know.
Yeah, I think Nick right here says it pretty good right here. It's cinema wrestling. It doesn't need to be a regular wrestling match. When you see this come on your TV, this needs to have the theatrics and have where something's happening backstage. And then you have the big payoff where it's a match with some kind of theatrics.
Yeah,
It doesn't need to be on your weekly Raw. There needs to be the storytelling on a Raw. Lead it to a
that's
pay
fair.
per view, then have a specialty match. That's how you get if it's Bo Dallas over. All these creatures are coming. Whatever it is, it's just there's. I don't know. Like you said, but it's definitely stock down major right now.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, and it's unfortunate that, like, it's stocked down because they have been off of TV for so long, but that's how wrestling works, man. That's why wrestlers work through all the injuries that they work through, and, I'm not saying, like, that they should be putting themselves in harm's way. Please don't take it to that point, but I'm just saying, like, that's kind of the wrestler's biggest fear is, like, being forgotten and people getting divested, when they come back, and we've seen it sometimes. Wrestlers come back and that pop isn't always there, and I don't know how much, it'll be there without Alexa Bliss.
When then if you just real quick, if
Yep.
okay, say I don't know, say Finn Balor, and you tell
Mhm.
me Wyatt Six is coming back, they're gonna knock you out. Why? Like, what's the payoff of this? If these guys are start stop, nobody's getting over in the situation. Like, what makes you, if you're a WWE talent, want to work with the Wyatt Six now?
Yeah, that's actually that might be the best point of the night in terms of just, like, the Wyatt Six, like, why the target? Why does it matter? What talent
Yeah,
wants to be specifically, brought up in that? And please not Finn Balor, because now Roxanne Perez is actually talking to Finn Balor in the background of Raw. I don't know if you caught that the last couple of weeks, but let's see what Roxanne has in store for maybe Liv Morgan when she comes back or something like that. But, oh, did you wanna talk Backlash for a minute? Do you just
let's
wanna give
just
some overall
yeah, I
thoughts
think
here?
we've kind of hit the stock up, stock down. Overall, as an event, was there anything that really stuck out to you that maybe, as a general wrestling fan, that maybe was overlooked? Because this was a quick build up, and these were stacked matches. You mentioned
Mm,
earlier McAfee, Gunther kind of told a good story. I
mhm.
really thought Penta and Dom had really good chemistry coming off
Very
of
good
Backlash.
chemistry.
I
Yeah.
was very impressed.
Yeah, that match was great. The DDT that Dom hit was absolutely insane. Was not expecting that. I'm glad that they are finally giving Dom some credibility just in terms of, like, his ability in ring. I know that they still had the interference angles and stuff like that. But at least he's hitting those types of moves. At least he's taking some risks. At least he's expressing some urgency and going after the pins and things like that. So I think they're actually leveling up Dom's character, which is nice to see. And then just in terms of Cena, man, I saw a clip of him leaving the ring, and it looked like he got maybe a little bit emotional, something that we haven't seen since Cena's character has flipped. Like, the crowd was saying, "Thank you, Cena," and he was just there staring at the belt at the apron of the ring. So I think more than anything, what it told me is pay attention to everything. Like whether you love what has happened with this Cena heel turn and this run, a lot of this is going to be the last time you see it. So just try to enjoy it. And I think that's an overarching point that you and I have tried to tie into like our everyday, wrestling fandom, but especially on this tour, man, like I really think you just got to enjoy it. Like that may literally be the last time we see John Cena and Randy Orton.
Yeah, and I don't know if it was because I was expecting so much more from the Cody Rhodes Cena story at WrestleMania, but I loved every minute of the Cena Randy Orton match. Like I thought it was great booking, just the ending and how it worked out with Truth, with the referees. I just thought all around the show in general was, even the Becky Lyra match, that one blew me away. I did not expect Lyra. I thought she did a really good job, had really good chemistry with Becky in this one as well. But I love this pay-per-view all the way around.
Yeah, agreed. It was Lyra's probably best televised match since being on the main roster. So, all right, that'll wrap us up for this week, Maddie. We got, a couple of weeks until Saturday Night Main Event and Night of Champions, stuff like that. So we'll probably definitely talk Night of Champions. Depending on what happens with Saturday Night Main Event, we might talk about that a little bit. But as always, hit us up on all the things. We're going to be live every single Tuesday night around this 10 p.m. Eastern time. Facebook, YouTube at WrestleMats, over on Twitch at WrestleMatsPod. Try to keep it easy for you. But he is Matty Riser. I'm Matt Kelly. We're WrestleMats. See you next week.